Rehab and documentation guru, speaking to you live in front of, well, it's live right now that I'm recording it, in front of McDonald's, where I got a highly nutritious lunch. Anyway, wanted to talk today about the fact that come next year, come January, under the new regulations for home health for PDGM, and this will have obviously implications to other payer settings. Medicare does not propose anymore to pay for generalized muscle weakness. In other words, covering services for just patients having a diagnosis of generalized muscle weakness. And here's Medicare's thought. In fact, they've had this thought for a while. Back in 2009, under revisions of the PPS rules at that time, Medicare had stated that why would they pay for something that the general elderly population suffers from? Generalized muscle weakness. Therapy is going to be necessary in those particular cases. So when it comes to diagnoses, we're going to see more and more emphasis on appropriate coding of ICD-10 codes that support the medical necessity of care. And you who work in home health, you that work in SNF, who will be under PDPM, you're going to be getting obviously education, if you have not already started, for 2020. And it's going to entail in part the use of diagnostics. One of the things that PDGM and PDPM are supposed to do is not only take into account the primary diagnosis the patient is suffering from as it relates to medical necessity, but also comorbidities. And if you've been to my course on documentation, you know that one of the things I hammer home is the fact that you prove relevance of diagnoses through the use of measurements of underlying impairments. So for example, I saw a patient with signs and symptoms of claudication of his calves when he was walking. So he has a history of coronary artery disease, and he's had claudication symptoms in the past. So I did an assessment of his lower extremities to determine whether or not there were other things I could see that would point to a vascular issue, more particularly an arterial vascular issue. And so assuming this guy has a diagnosis of PAD, I would show the relevance of that to my therapy assessment by measuring things, underlying impairments, and quantifying his symptoms, like the claudication, like how far he could walk before claudication set in. So anyway, just as a reminder, generalized muscle weakness, which is one of the ones that PT and OT tend to hang our hats on to get reimbursed for therapy services, come this next year will no longer be a reimbursable diagnosis. And so we really want to prove the relevance of the additional past medical history of patients and beyond generalized muscle weakness. Anyway, this has been John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru, urging you to like and subscribe, and please leave comments if you have any suggestions for future videos. Take care, God bless, and please eat healthier than I do.